scared?
By golly, we are on episode 6 now. Can you believe it?
Simply no.
I'm your host, Taylor, again.
And I'm still Alexandra.
The other host.
Yep.
Last episode, you weren't sure about that.
Well,
we literally did
you
it
just
every
talk
episode
more.
together. And then all of a sudden you're
Yeah.
like, am I a host? Of course you are.
You just talk more. See?
I just gotta fill the empty space.
Yeah.
So, do you want to introduce what movie we watched today?
Well, I thought since we watched the original Wicker Man so recently, it would be a good idea for us to watch the 2006 Wicker Man while we still have the original fresh in our mind. So that's what we did.
And what an oh so great decision that was. Because I'd already seen it, and you had already seen it, I think, right?
Yeah, I forgot most of it though.
Yeah, me too. I just remembered a few key, like, Nicolas Cage meme moments.
Mm-hmm.
But after watching the original, I kind of didn't realize how much they really copied the old one. Did you notice that?
They copied, but they just messed with it so much and added so much unnecessary stuff.
Yeah, it's like the stuff they copied didn't really matter.
Yeah,
like
we noticed a few like line for line copies. But I don't know. I mean, to start off, the beginnings of the movies are totally different because in the original you don't really know anything about the backstory of the cop that goes to the island to investigate.
Mm-hmm.
It kind of shows up and you don't really know anything about him. And then this movie starts off with Nicolas Cage like doing his job, and then the whole accident scene that that just sticks with him, that like traumatizes him, where he tries to save this mom and her daughter and then he doesn't.
Yes.
And they get killed by a truck.
So it just starts off with him like randomly in a diner.
Uh-huh.
Was it his partner? I don't know. It's just some other cop in the diner with him. Doesn't matter. And then it cuts to Nick Cage on a motorcycle pulling over this station wagon with a mom and a kid, and the kid like threw out a doll out of the window, and he like picks it up while he's driving. Like he does this cool little sweep on the ground with his hand, picks it up, and they're literally like they're talking to each other while they're pulled over, and this big semi truck just slams into the station wagon, trying to get out of the way of Nick Cage in the road. It's just like that same scene he keeps flashing back to the whole movie, and it just like it's so weird.
Yeah, they really reference that scene multiple times
like,
throughout the movie.
Doesn't mean anything. It literally doesn't matter.
Well, it's like, I mean, I guess they're trying to set it up like he missed the opportunity to save the little girl in the car, which I guess gives him more drive to save the girl on the island that he thinks is missing. But it's like, you don't need that. Like, he's a cop and he's trying to find a missing girl. You know what I mean?
Every time
like
they flashed back, the girl kept like disappearing from his flashback.
Yeah.
Like, why is this happening? Why are they flashing back to this scene for the 10th time?
Yeah, I thought the whole beginning part, I get they're trying to like set up the scene, like so you understand who Nick Cage is in the movie, but I mean the original movie didn't do that, and I thought it worked just fine without it, you know?
Yeah, it worked perfectly fine. I really tried to just look at this movie like as objectively as possible.
Uh-huh.
Without thinking of the memes and stuff, but it was just so hard. Like the first half of the movie was, I mean, it had a lot of problems obviously, but at least the first half of the movie was like an actual movie. And the second half is like the second he gets stuck down in that little well and then they let him out. He's just totally off the rails, Nick Cage, and the whole movie just feels so different after that point. It's so fun.
Well, it's like my biggest issue with the movie is not even if like we're totally forgetting the original, if I was just looking at this movie on its own, just the fact that like okay, so he goes to the island to find this missing girl, and his ex-fiance supposedly clued him in that she was missing because she lives on this island. So it's like, okay, he goes to help his ex-fiance, and then you figure out that the missing girl is actually his. It's just like they just added so much stuff that they didn't need to add. Like, I think in the original movie, the reason that it worked was because it was so simple. They didn't add a bunch of backstory and connection to the people on the island. It was just like him showing up and he was a complete outsider.
Yeah.
But in this, he's so much more involved, especially because Willow is his ex-fiance and she's nice to him and they try to work together. It's like that whole thing just threw off the whole vibe of the movie for me.
Yeah, it's like the movie didn't really know what it wanted to be, and it didn't really understand what the original was because he does like all the same things that the guy does in the original movie. Like he goes through all the same actions and everything, but now they're just adding more like exposition behind it in this movie, and it's just like obviously not necessary, like you were saying, because he does all the same stuff in the original, and we care. But it's like, why are you trying to make us care even more about something that you don't need to like really care about as much? It's just
Well, it's
weird.
almost like they're following, or they're, I don't know. Like in my head, it just makes it seem like it's making it a lot easier for a general audience to follow. Like, because at the end, the big twist at the end when you realize that they were fooling him the whole time, he thinks, "Wow, Willow really betrayed me." It's like two betrayals in one, because all the entire island fooled him, and then Willow fooled him, and she was supposed to be on his side.
It was
So it's
so
kind of
quick
like,
though.
yeah, I know, but like in the original, when he goes to the island, the mother of the missing girl is completely unfazed that her daughter's missing. She's just kind of like, oh, whatever, just living her life, which is really disturbing. But in this movie, the missing girl's daughter is just as concerned as Nick Cage is. So it's like
Right. In the
it doesn't make him feel like he's the only sane one there, which I think is why the original one was creepy, because he felt like I'm the only one who isn't a complete crazy person on this island.
Yeah, and I think in the original he doesn't know who sent the letter, right? It was just like anonymous.
Yeah, I don't think they even explain it. I think they just said,
Yeah, it was just a reason to get him there,
yeah,
like plot
probably
wise.
someone must have just written, or they didn't even explain how it got there.
Right. It doesn't matter to the story as long
Yeah.
as he got there. And then I literally wrote so many notes about this movie when we were
Thought we
watching.
weren't taking notes.
I wasn't gonna take notes, and then things kept happening, and I'm like, I gotta write this down for future reference.
Yeah, I wrote a few.
So I wrote down his daughter because I was like, oh, it's his daughter that went missing, and then he was like, oh no, he had a kid with somebody else. So I literally crossed it out, and then like almost at the end of the movie, she's like, "Oh yeah, by the way, it's your daughter." And I was like, "Oh my god!" I had to go back and write it in, like, "Okay, it is his daughter." Oh, I think one of the biggest things I wrote was that he's such a dick in the beginning, kind of for no reason. Like, I understand I guess it's personal for him because it was his not even ex-wife, but it was his ex-fiance. So he like has an emotional connection to this situation, but the scene where he's going up to the guy on the plane, it just says like some corny shit. Like what did he say?
Oh
Oh,
yeah, when he was trying to bribe him to take him to the island.
he's like, "Will you take me there?" And the dude's like, "Yeah, no, sorry." They're like super strict about it. He's like, "What if you take us all there?" And he pulls out a bunch of money. And I'm like, "All right, I can I can accept that. It's a little corny. And then he runs into the school when he's on the island with all the girls.
Hmm.
He just acts like a complete dick. Um, what does he say? Oh, well, first of all, he just shows up there, and the teacher's like, "How dare you scare my children?" And they're like clearly not bothered by him being there. It's like there's no scene where they jump or whatever because he just shows up. He's just there.
Hmm.
And the scene where he's in the bar, where he's just like, "Give me a drink." And she's all like, "Oh, well, here's the mead, and it's mixed with all this other shit." And he just turns around at everybody. He's like, "I'm gonna talk to every single one of you guys." And he slams the drink down on the bee and kills it. I'm like, why is he just randomly aggressive? Like in the first movie, he was a little weary of everybody, but he wasn't like a complete dick until they started pissing him off, you know. But for some reason here, he's just kind of out of the gate, like irritated at everybody. I just thought that was kind of weird.
Yeah, because I think in the first one they sort of built up more of him realizing that people weren't taking it seriously at all, which was really frustrating for him because he was trying to do his job.
Right.
But in this one, he kind of just assumed automatically that like everybody wasn't going to help him, so he was super aggressive toward them. But it didn't like. I don't think it would have worked out like that. You know what I mean? He probably would have tried a little harder to work with people before he just started yelling at everybody.
Yeah, because it's like his only interaction at that point was the people
Yeah.
right when he got there. The group of like 6 or 7 people, if that. And it's like you can't judge everybody on just those few people and then just automatically assume everyone's gonna like lie to you. And that just makes the transition towards the middle of the movie just that much stranger. Where like nothing really I mean obviously he gets locked down in the well, but he just goes from I don't want to say 0 to 100, but he was already at like 50. It was like 50 to 100. There's no like build up to it. He's like a slight dick, and then he's just like complete crazy person. In the first movie, you could definitely feel like a build up of tension where the
Hmm.
guy's like slowly losing it, and he's like, "All right, I'm fed up with these people."
And also, I think the location differences, like that influenced me a lot in how I viewed the movie because in the original, they're this tiny island off the coast of Scotland, only accessed by plane, and it felt really remote, which is scary because he's trying to figure these people out and they're all acting so weird. But in this movie, it's like it's off the coast of Washington State, and I don't know, it just didn't feel like
Yeah, like not as
didn't seem as
isolated, and
creepy to me. Yeah.
I think I think that was a big problem, and then I think the other part of the creepiness. I even made a note about it. It's almost like this movie watched the original movie, and they thought that the scariest part of that movie was the fact that the girl was missing and that things were weird. So that's what they focused on here and try to scare people that way. And in the original movie, that wasn't what was the creepy part. Everything was creepy because everyone was acting weird and like they were doing weird things that the guy didn't understand, like all the weird, like the orgy and stuff, and then
Mhm.
the dancing and singing. Like they didn't have any of that in this movie. Like I
Yeah, there was no singing in it. I mean, they had music you'd find in, like a regular movie, I guess, but
yeah,
the
like a
folk music that
score.
was yeah, that was totally gone, which I think added a lot to the original.
Yeah, it definitely set the tone of being creepy because these people are acting all happy, go lucky, and everything like that, even though you know there's a girl missing. So it's kind of like it gives you that creepy vibe. Where in this one, they don't you don't really see what they do ever. It's just you're always following Nick Cage, and Nick Cage is always like looking for something and talking to somebody and asking questions instead of just like walking around and looking at stuff like in the original, you know?
Hmm.
So it's like, it's not as creepy for me because why would I be creeped out? I don't know. what these people are doing, or why, you know, why it's such a big deal. And especially at the end when obviously he gets put in the Wicker Man just like in the original, and he gets burned and stuff. It's like in the original they're all dancing around and singing and all like happy and smiling, and then at the end of this one they're just going through the motions and they're like emotionless. You know, unless I'm wrong, were they singing? I didn't even think they were singing or doing anything.
No, I did make a note of that though because in the original, they were all singing whatever song, some creepy folk song, and holding hands and like swaying back and forth while he was burning. And in this one, they all were standing around yelling, "The drone must die" over and over and over again
Yeah,
as he was burning.
they were just like they had it in the back of their heads when they're making this movie, just like, oh, it's a creepy cult, and that
Yeah,
was it. Like they didn't go into any effort to flesh out the cult or anything like that. So they just bank on the audience being like, yeah, I'm afraid of cults too. That's a
and
creepy cult thing.
twins.
Yeah, they must like blind twins that say
Yeah.
say stuff at the same time, like cliche twin movie stuff. So stupid.
Yeah, and then the whole change of in this movie, men are kind of looked, or they definitely are looked down upon. They're the kind of the servants of the society, and it's run by the women. I mean, I don't know why they need to add that.
Yeah, it like served no purpose to the story.
Yeah, that was a big change because obviously in the first one, Lord Summer Isle is a man, Christopher Lee, and then men play a big role in the society, and they're, I guess, sort of equal or something. I mean, they're definitely not lower in the ranks than the women are, so that was just a major change in this movie, and I'm not exactly sure why they did
Yeah,
that.
in the original they're like you said, they're equal, but they worship the phallic symbol because
Hmm.
it's a symbol of fertility. That's what the whole cult is about, fertility and stuff. Which I think is why they put so much emphasis on bees in this stupid movie because they go around pollinating all the flowers and stuff, so it's a sign of fertility. But I mean, I don't. You got to do more with a symbol than just like show it. It's got to mean something. You got to kind of flesh it out, and then yeah, it seemed like a statement that they're trying to make about men in society or something like that. Because
Yeah,
I don't think literally any of them talk, right? Like I think two of
just
them
the
mumble. Oh, the pilot,
yeah, and then but he wasn't even part of it,
right?
so all the other men were kind of mute, or it sounded like they had their tongues taken out or something.
Yeah, and then they have the weird scene with Sister Summer Isle, like laying in her bed with like silk sheets, and there's like
Hmm.
a whole room full of women, like just standing there waiting to do whatever she asks, and it's just like so weird. Because I mean, Lord Summer Isle in the first one, like obviously he lives in like a mansion, but never got the feeling that everyone was there doing everything he wanted. Like they're at his beck and call. He felt more of like an equal to them.
Yeah,
Where
I think so too.
this they just like completely put her up on a pedestal for like no reason.
I think they were trying to make it seem like, oh, look at her, she's so powerful and threatening. But I didn't really get that vibe
Me
from her at all.
neither.
Especially at the end with her football game face paint.
Literally every single person there is dressed as like an animal, has an animal mask. Everything's like earth tone, and they show her, and she's like a white dress with white and blue paint on her face. She's at a football
Split perfectly down the middle. It was so weird.
game. There was like a couple other people with paint on their face, but it was like brown paint. So I'm like, okay, it's like earth tones. And then she's just sticking there out of nowhere. Like in the old
Yeah, it was
one,
weird.
oh yeah, they didn't even do anything. Like they didn't explain the roles or anything during the festival, like they did in the original, where someone had to be like the king for a day, someone had to be a fool, all those
Hmm.
roles, the knights or whatever. And they were just like, nah, just wear whatever, just dress weird for the festival. And this movie, they didn't give a shit at all about fleshing out the cult. They're just like, let's just show cult shit. They
Yeah,
copied this stuff without knowing why it was like that in the original. Like the scene where he finds the pilot dead on the shore. and the plane is like sunken, and then the people like pop up in the background with their masks on. It's like, first of all, that scene was way earlier on in the movie, the first one, which was good, I think, because it throws out a little like wrench, and you're like, whoa, whoa, what the hell was that? And then this one, it's like, yeah, we get it. We already know something's going on here.
Yeah, and so he obviously wasn't Nick Cage wasn't the pilot in this movie. Um, so it just seemed like they threw that pilot in there just so they had a reason to kill somebody else and show someone else dead. You know what I mean? Like I don't,
Why would he still
uh,
be there anyway?
I don't know. I guess he was making a delivery or something, and they killed him. But I mean, I didn't get the same vibe as in the original when the pilot, the police officer goes back to his plane to try to go back, or what was he doing? Was he trying to go back at that point when he realizes it won't start?
Yeah,
That's what he was
he's
doing.
trying to go back, uh, get back up or something like that.
Yeah, and so when he realizes it doesn't start, I mean that's terrifying because that was his only way out. He can't communicate with people. But in this movie, when Nick Cage realizes that the pilot's dead, it like I just didn't care.
And then the random scene in the woods where his phone rings for a second, even though he doesn't have any service anywhere else. His phone rings, he answers it, and he's like, I need help," and then it dies. And you're like, what was the point of that?
The only thing I could think of was so that he had an excuse to take off the bear suit.
We need Nick Cage to take off his bear suit at some point. Let's make
I
his
don't,
phone
because
ring.
yeah, I don't know why else they would have put that in unless they were trying to make it like, oh, maybe it'll fool the audience to think that he has a chance of getting out, but then the call goes dead. But I don't know because in that scene he did take off his bear suit, so I thought maybe they just needed an excuse
Yeah.
for him to get out of it.
Sorry for thinking that something else is going to happen that actually mattered. Like someone was going to fly in at the last minute at the end of the movie, like, we got your call. We pinpointed
That
your
would have been so
location.
dumb if they had done that.
I don't think it would have been any worse than what we got.
I read in the original they wanted a happier ending, I guess to appeal more to people, but the director of the movie didn't want that. So I have a feeling they probably would have gotten away with doing that in this movie, having somebody fly in, having his buddy fly in and
Ugh.
saving him, or that woman cop instead. But that would have been so dumb.
Yeah, that would have like totally undermined the whole rest of the movie. Like, oh, okay, I guess it doesn't matter that the Cole is doing this stuff. Oh, I think one of the other things I had a problem with, I had written down. Well, one, the random visions that he has, the flashbacks and stuff. Uh, the dumbass, this scene where he's on that little raft and he looks down and sees like what he thinks is Rowan floating there dead. And he's
Oh yeah,
like,
he was on the
oh,
dock, I
and he
think.
dives down and he swims up to her and then he like wakes up and he was like falling asleep on the raft. And he
It was
wakes
the
up.
dock.
No, he was on like a raft or something, I thought.
He was on the dock waiting for the pilot.
Oh, I thought there was like a little raft off the shore.
I don't think so.
Oh, but anyway, he wakes up after he sees her like floating under the dock, and then he looks down and her dead body's in his arms, and he wakes up again. I'm like, oh my god, why are we doing this dumb shit? he's,
Yeah.
he's just having visions within visions now for no reason.
Yeah, and that was another thing that annoyed me, the constant he would think that he saw Rowan like running or he thought he heard her, so he'd go and chase her. Like that happened multiple times, which was just annoying to me
And then he
that
had the
he thought
semi
he
truck.
like
Every time he'd picture her like on that boat, he'd be walking up to her, and then all of a sudden a random semi truck would just get like photoshopped in hitting her.
yeah. It's like it was just that just happened too many times. Like maybe have it happen once if you need to do that, but it happened so many times.
All right, we get it. You couldn't save the girl in the car. She was a dick anyway. If she was even really there. It kept making you think like, oh, he just imagined it in the flashbacks.
Yeah.
Because he's like questioning if the girl was actually there or not.
Yeah, because his buddy cop lady, she was like, "Oh, they didn't have any record of those two who were in the car."
Yeah, there's no bodies.
Yeah.
Like, what? How is that possible? Did he pull over a car that was driving with nobody in it? Or did he just pull up to a car that was just sitting there on the side of the road? Like,
Or did their bodies like incinerate and they had no record of them?
I have no clue. Like, none of this makes any sense.
They
But
just needed some sort of backstory for him to keep coming back to, for him to keep thinking about.
and then he just randomly dabs cologne onto his neck on the ferry ride. Whatever it is. I'm like, okay. I guess that's character development. Oh,
It's just, it just annoyed me so much that Willow in this movie was actually his ex-fiance.
yeah, and they kept
That shouldn't have been part of it. That is so stupid, and it really takes you out of any sort of creepiness because you automatically feel like he's going to someone he knows, so he's comfortable with this person. You know what I mean?
You know what annoyed me even more is that the stupid end scene, like the 6 months later scene, where
Oh
it
yeah, that was
shows
so dumb.
Willow and the blonde chick, and it kind of makes you think like, oh, that's just what she does is she goes out, she like reels people in, and then it makes you wonder like, is that what she did to Nick Cage in the, however long ago it was? But they keep showing close-up shots of Willow's face, like, and she's got the expression on her face like, oh, I'm not really okay with this, but it has to be done, But then when you have a scene like that at the end, you're like, okay, so does she not give a fuck then at all? Then why would you show her making those faces? Like, what the hell is really going on here? I just don't get it.
You mean like because she had that worrying look when he was being burned alive when Nick Cage was in the Wicker Man?
Yeah, she just kept having that face like, oh, this sucks because I used to care about him when we were engaged, but I know we have to sacrifice him. Like,
Maybe that was her original plan, was that he was just going to be someone they could sacrifice, but then they fell in love because they did get engaged. Like, she couldn't get engaged to every single guy she was going to do that to. That would take forever.
well, you don't know. That's what I'm saying. When they have a stupid scene at the end of the movie like that.
James Franco randomly. It's like, what?
That's what I'm saying, though. It's like, for that
Who
scene
just happens to be fresh out of the police academy. It's like, oh, of course.
Yeah, so we probably should have said this towards the beginning, but the version that I found online must have been the edited version for HBO, because who knows what other scenes were cut, but the version we just watched didn't have the famous bees scene where they put the cage of bees on his head, and they didn't have any of the part where he gets tortured by them. What we got was it went straight from him being caught on that hill, and it cuts to them already marching towards the Wicker Man with him in like a sack, and all you hear is like a disembodied Nick Cage voice, like yelling, "My legs! My legs!" And you hear them like breaking his legs, but you don't see it happening anywhere on screen. Then he's like, "You bitches! Killing me is not going to bring back your crops or the bees." Like, what the fuck is happening? Like,
That's why, like, when we watched it, I'm like, am I missing something? Because it looks so out of place. And then we realized that was because they weren't showing the scene. They were just using the audio, and they put it over the scene of them walking up the hill. I guess is because they thought it was too graphic, even though it wasn't even graphic. We watched it on, was that YouTube, right?
yeah, but
Um,
regardless, though, if you want to cut that out of the movie, fine. But you really don't need to have the audio still playing over nothing. If you cut out even the audio, I will still buy that they somehow knocked him out and brought him to the Wicker Man. You don't need to have all the audio of him yelling and screaming of them doing stuff to him. Because then it looks even worse when they dump him out of the sack and he's like motionless. And then you're like, wait, he was just like yelling and screaming. How come he's not moving now? It just doesn't make sense. Whoever's
That just seemed
editing this,
like a really rushed decision to make. They're like, okay, we got to cut this part out, but we're gonna lose the story, so let's just throw his voice in there. It's like,
I'd see the director talking to the editor like, yeah, so HBO is saying that scene was a little too graphic. Yeah, HBO, I know, but they want us to take this out. But Nick Cage is really proud of him yelling, "You bitches, killing me is not going to bring back the bees." So figure out a way to cut the scene out, but keep the audio in. That's what we got.
yeah, it looked really
We
bad.
put a lot of time into making it sound like his legs got broken. So I mean, if you could keep that on there, are you sure about that? Because the scene he's just being carried and not being moved. Yeah, I know, but I mean, this is Nick Cage we're talking about. I mean, I'm not upset because it was great. Scene was scene was awesome.
I don't think they wanted us to be laughing at him.
That's, Nick Cage is probably so sad about it. Like everyone's laughing at my movie.
Anytime Nick Cage bursts out in anger or fear, I just started laughing because it's just so funny. And that's not the kind of reaction you should have to a movie like this if it's done right.
I've seen him. I genuinely like Nick Cage as an actor, and
Me too.
there's movies where he definitely ramps it up, but it's like there's a reason, and it's like built up to it, and so you really believe it and feel it. Like, yeah, I'd go crazy too. But it's like movies like this where he just does it like in the snap of an instant. You're like, what the fuck? Where's this coming from?
I wonder if this was made. I don't know when National Treasure came out, but because that one scene in the barn, which is another unnecessary scene, I guess, to just get the audience interested in what's happening. When he's looking, he thinks he sees Rowan in the barn, so he goes to look for her, and then of course he falls through the deteriorating wood floor of the barn, and that action music starts playing like he's gonna fall, and he's grabbing onto the edge, and he's trying to pull himself. It's like, what? That's literally a scene at National Treasure. Like, why is this in this movie?
That, and they're playing the kind of music that you'd play when they've already built up a character that you care about, and there's like a whole 2 hours of movie before it. So you're like, oh, this really is tense. But it's just so out of place.
Yeah.
Like super tense music all like out of nowhere. And that was one of my biggest problems like near the end, where because we already talked about how they don't show any like festivities or them doing anything. And then even when they're walking towards the festival and like dancing, you can hear their music playing kind of faintly, but it's drowned out by like the super tense movie score. Like you want to hear them playing like the folk music and being happy, like, but all you hear is like the. You're like, why? Just calm down. We get it's a tense part of the movie. You don't need to show us like with the music and everything. Like, oh my god, don't overwhelm us.
Yeah, that's something that a lot of scary movies nowadays, I just don't think they get right. Is they just make things too. They put music where it doesn't belong. It's creepier when things are quiet, and that's just they just can't help themselves, I guess.
It's just
Interestingly enough, the budget for this movie was $40 million, and it made $38.8 million at the box office. So,
oh, that's rough.
so yeah, didn't do too hot.
That's really bad. I don't know what I would have expected either, honestly. I'm surprised if they had put some of that meme kind of stuff in the beginning of the movie, maybe it would have made more.
Meme?
The meme material that's in the second half.
Yeah.
How'd it get burned? How'd it get burned? How'd it get burned? All you need to do is sprinkle some of that in the beginning of the movie, so people will watch it and be like, "Oh, everyone's got to come see this. This is great." The first half, you're just thinking you're watching like just a shitty movie, but once you get to the second half, it's kind of worth it being a shitty movie just for all the dumb scenes in the end that are so funny. I totally forgot about the how to get burned until it popped up into this movie.
Yeah, I forgot about that too.
It's like even the memes that you know are coming, they're still so funny when they actually happen in the movie. Like what was yeah, the the my legs and the oh my god. When he sees the Wicker Man, it's the way he says it. I can't even do it. It's like,
So
oh my
funny.
god. Oh my god. It's, and I feel so bad because like in the original, that's pretty much how he reacted too when he saw it, but
It
it was
worked.
more believable, especially because he's established as like a devout Christian in the original. So when he sees the Wicker Man, he's like, "Oh my God, Jesus Christ!" It like means more because in his from his character's perspective, that's him actually like reaching out to his God and his beliefs.
Yeah, there was no religion from Nick Cage, right, in this
No,
movie.
not
He
at
didn't
all.
ever talk about, so there was no clash of his religion versus what they were doing
Right.
at all, which that was a major part of the police officer in the original's character,
I think
and they just left that out completely.
I think it could have worked, but like it could have worked better if he still wasn't religious in this movie. But I think because like in the original, I don't think he needed to be Christian, but I think it definitely made the movie kind of more interesting because it gives you more of a stark contrast to what they're doing on the island. So I think I was saying about that in the last episode where I'm like, you and I aren't religious and we still find it really creepy what they're doing and stuff, but it also makes it kind of creepier because you get the Christianity on one side as like the opposite of what these people are doing. So even if you don't believe in stuff, you can definitely like you can see through the characters themselves how different things are just just going off their beliefs and how they go against each other. Like his obsession with uh, her being buried properly, and when he puts the
Hmm.
cross, the makeshift cross that he makes on top of the grave, like just that kind of stuff. But and like I don't know, obviously they just didn't have any of that in this movie. They didn't give a crap. Like screw that shit.
Yeah, I felt like the original definitely, even though the movie was, I think, the same amount of time, right? I don't think this movie was any longer,
No,
but in the original, it just seemed like you really got a more, like a better idea of what that society's views were and why they were so disturbing. But it just felt like they just underdeveloped the whole idea of their island in this.
yeah, for sure. I think one of my other biggest gripes, of course, it was like near the end of the movie again, but um, everyone just explains the plot to him in the end.
Oh yeah, I was gonna say that too.
Yeah, it was kind of annoying. Like in the original, it felt more like a conversation where he just kept asking him why, and he kept asking him all these things, and they would like answer him back, and it felt more of like a back and forth as he's getting more desperate, and they're cornering him and getting closer and closer as they're like answering him. It's like super tense. And then this one, they try to do the same thing where they all get like slowly closer in on him, but he's not really saying anything. It's just jumping from like woman to woman, almost like they rehearsed who was gonna say what. It was just really annoying.
Yeah, I felt like in the original when he kind of realizes that he was fooled the whole time and he's actually in big trouble and then they're gonna hurt him. And then the woman, that one crazy lady, comes up to him and she's like, "Oh, we needed somebody." She explains we needed somebody who was going to be a fool who came here on his own free will. But it almost seemed like she was reciting some weird thing from a pagan book. You know what I mean? It's
Yeah,
so. But then in this one, when they're explaining it to him, the school teacher's literally like, "You thought that Willow wrote that note, but it was actually all of us. We needed you to come here." It's like, I don't know. They just over explained everything way too much, as if the audience is so stupid they wouldn't understand
right.
what was happening.
And I don't think the audience understood what was happening, and I don't think it was out of stupidity. I think it was out of confusion on the movie's part. And you know what I just realized? They one of the things that um, Sister Summer Isle said to, I can't even remember his shitty character, but Nick Cage. She's like,
Edward.
Edward Malice, something, right? No,
I don't even remember.
so whatever. Nick Cage. Um, they're in reference to his daughter. They were like, it has to be someone of blood. So I literally just remembered that. I think that's probably why she got engaged to him and got pregnant with his kid, because it had to be somebody that was like blood related to somebody in the camp.
Well,
So
that's
I
stupid.
think when they
The
show the 6 months later, I think that is their whole plan, is to fall in love, quote unquote, get pregnant, and then come back.
Why would that have to be a rule for that society? That makes it so much
Well,
harder. And
babe,
in
I
the
don't
original,
know.
they just needed they just needed some guy to come who was a virgin and who was going to come on his own free will
I don't know. Don't
to
have
make
the
them seem
answers.
more malicious or something. They don't even. It's like they just didn't need to do that.
But I can even understand that. All right, if they wanted to make that like a rule within their society, sure, whatever. But so let's say that was her goal from the beginning, is to get Nick Cage to fall in love with her, get pregnant, and then leave him so he could come back. That kind of shows you that she doesn't care about him. But then even when the cat's out of the bag and Cage knows what's going on, and he's in the middle of the big circle, they still keep showing shots of Willow being like, "This isn't right," which annoyed me because when Rowan runs up to the mom and she's like, "How did I do?" She's like, "Wow, you did great, honey." She's all happy. But then they cut to her like 2 seconds later looking concerned again. And I'm like, "What are you? Pick what emotions you're feeling." I'm so confused.
Yeah, I mean, and then also, if you think about it, did she just get engaged and to Nick Cage, and she got pregnant, and then that kid Rowan was probably like 7 or something. So do they just like get pregnant in case the crops fail? So they need to bring the father back to sacrifice. You know what I mean? Like he didn't know about that kid for like however many years she had been alive for.
Yeah, true.
Is that like I guess that's what they do in case they need to sacrifice someone? They need to have a kid with them.
Yeah,
They just wait.
maybe. I have no idea. Well, there's also a bunch of other pregnant women. So, well, I know they use the men at the camp also, but who knows? Maybe some of them went out and got pregnant, came back. Because the lady was like, "Yeah, some of the people leave, but then they always come back." So maybe they bank on at least some of them doing that. I don't know. Really don't know.
See, but now you're left with all these questions that you shouldn't have even had. You know what I mean?
Oh, I agree.
You're just like left wondering so many things that were unnecessary in the first place.
Completely agree. Believe me, I won't justify anything in this movie except for the great one-liners from Nick Cage. It's amazing that an actor like that can be in such a shitty movie and get away with acting so crazy and still be able to get jobs and roles in movies today.
I wonder if this was during his phase where he had spent. I watched this show on him that he had spent so much of his money on just buying random crap. Like you think he bought a dinosaur for like millions of dollars. He just was buying all this stuff. So he had then he ended up like not having any money to pay off his debt. So then he's just started doing all these shitty movies just to make money. But I don't even know if this was part of that.
Probably not. Maybe this was
But
before.
I read oh now I can't find it. I read a there was a quote by Nick Cage where he literally just said like, yeah, he knows the movie's bad. I can't find it now. Hold on. Um Dang it. I don't know where I saw it. Oh, in 2010, Nick Cage remarked, there is a I can't say this word, mischievous mind at work on the Wicker Man, you know what I mean? And I finally kind of said, I might have known that the movie was meant to be absurd, but saying that now after the fact is okay, but to say it before the fact is not, because you have to let the movie have its own life.
What a
So
guy.
he kind of, he was like, I'm not gonna say it before the movie comes out because that'll look really bad. But now I can say that it sucks.
That's why I like him.
I
He knows it's bad, but he doesn't want to ruin anything. Not just because,
wonder if he,
not because it'll
like,
ruin it.
if he knew it was bad while he was
Oh, probably.
doing it, because he was reading the script and he's like, "Oh God, I have to say this."
I mean, I do kind of wonder with actors sometimes if they're really trying and acting their hearts out because they think it's doing like a really good job of the movie, and then they see it afterwards and like, what the fuck was that?
I'm sure it changes a lot when things are edited together and stuff. But I mean, he was saying those lines.
I know. It's like him saying those lines though. Sometimes can be like
Sometimes it
effective.
works.
Yeah. So I mean, I don't know. There could have been studio meddling because that happens a lot, but I don't know about this one. I don't want to be like, yeah, it was definitely studio involvement, and then I research it, and they're like, yep, actually, studio didn't change a thing except for HBO afterwards. Kind of shitty.
Yeah. I mean, I guess I don't know when people think of Nick Cage. They probably think of National Treasure first,
Ghost
but
Rider.
I think Wicker Man they definitely think of just for that one scene with the bee helmet thing.
I don't think a lot of people know about this movie.
Really?
Yeah.
Maybe just because I like Nick Cage and I like making fun of him that I feel like everyone knows that.
Don't you dare make fun of Nick Cage.
He's just so ridiculous.
So, he's a master of his craft.
So it's funny though. I do think he has done a lot of good work as an actor, but
Yeah, he has. Vampire's
and he,
Kiss. Do you ever see that?
no, but I've seen that screenshot of it.
Yeah,
Is that the one? Is that the one where his eyes are
yeah.
bugging out of his head?
You ever seen the scene in that movie where he recites the whole alphabet?
Yeah.
See, that's a great scene right there. A B C D. I love that. He like throws stuff around. LMNOP. And then another movie I just watched him in. I think I was talking to you about it. Is it The Color of Space? Oh no, it's called Color Out of Space. Came out last year, and it's like one of those existential horror movies. I think we should review it, but maybe not yet. I'm trying to think of who's the author. H.P. Lovecraft. It's like a Lovecraftian story. Actually, I think it actually was a short story written by H.P. Lovecraft. Pretty sure. Yeah, based on a short story, Color Out of Space by H.P. Lovecraft. He's like really good in that movie.
I'll have to watch it.
And there's that other one, Mandy, I think it's called. I haven't seen it yet, but everyone keeps saying how good of a performance he gives in that movie. But he's like still crazy in it.
Yeah, when given the right material, I feel like he can really shine. But then sometimes he just goes off the rails a little bit.
And then it's weird seeing him in movies like National Treasure where he's like not crazy at all. He plays like a normal person. Like what? How do you go from that to being like, how did it burn? How did it burn? I don't get it.
I don't know. I don't know how actors do anything, really.
I don't either, I guess. Can't relate.
Nope. But yeah, this is an unfortunate remake, and I don't think it could have stood up on its own if it was its own independent movie. But it's funny toward the end.
Spike Lee would have just called it a reinterpretation. He likes to say that a lot.
Well, it's definitely not the best movie, but
Did you hear him say that? It's Spike Lee was like being interviewed about. Um, damn it, I can't remember what movie he remade. Oh, Old Boy. It's like a really famous Korean movie or South Korean movie, and it's like regarded as like one of the best movies ever. And he remade it with Josh Brolin, and it was like really bad. And in all the interviews, he's like, "It's not a remake; it's a reinterpretation." Like, all right, Spike Lee, it's still really bad. Doesn't matter what you call it.
yeah, this was just, I mean, I guess there's a few different ways you can try to remake a movie, but this was, there were so many similarities, but in such a different way that it just didn't work.
Yeah, and I don't want to fall into that pitfall of there's never successful remakes because I have seen remakes that are like really good. Like, do you ever?
Yeah, it's definitely harder to do that, but
Yeah,
it can be done.
the remake for The Blob. You ever seen that?
Yeah, the that was another movie that I didn't realize the remake wasn't the original because I've never seen, I know I have seen the original, but I saw the remake first.
Oh,
Did we
okay, yeah,
watch
me
it
too.
together?
I don't remember. Maybe we did, but I like the remake even better than the original. I think it's like really good.
Yeah, no, I do like that movie. That movie scared me a lot.
Me too. I think I saw that before I saw The Thing. And The Thing is a remake too.
Same with The Fly. The Fly is really good, the remake.
Yep, I forgot about The Fly. Yeah, so I mean, there's no excuse. Get your shit together if you're gonna make a remake. Neil Labute, I don't know what the hell his name is.
I wonder what else he's done.
Oh, I'm about to find out because we're gonna watch them all. Never heard of these. In the Company of Men, Nurse Betty, Black Chicks.
What the hell?
Interesting. Anyway. Do
Well,
you
I still
wanna?
had fun watching it, but
Would you recommend?
maybe it's like a joke.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. Definitely.
I wouldn't recommend if you want to sit down and watch a movie that's actually scary and well done. No, I wouldn't recommend this, but if I mean if you like Nick Cage and you just want to laugh at some of his lines, then yeah, I would watch this.
I would say jump to the scene where he's stuck in that little well, and just keep in mind that he's looking for his daughter, and then just hit play from there and enjoy the movie. Don't bother with the whole beginning of the movie because it doesn't matter anyway,
Yeah.
and then you'll have a lot of fun. Do you want to risk giving it a score out of 10?
Well, I gave the original an 8.
Yep.
It's like I have to keep in my head my other scores because then I gave it remake 7 or something, didn't I?
Yeah.
It's definitely worse than that. But it's like I also like it because it's funny. But if I'm talking about, well, I guess I have to consider everything. I mean, it's pretty bad.
I'll just say 3 out of 10.
Yeah, I was gonna say 3 or 4.
Definitely 3. It's objectively 3 out of 10. I can.
Especially if you take out the parts that we like, those like 2 scenes. I mean, the movie's terrible.
Yeah. Definitely not redeeming scenes. It just makes it not as shitty to watch, but definitely doesn't make it a better movie.
Doesn't make it scary, which it's supposed to be.
No. Imagine being scared by this movie. I can't. I guess if you're allergic to bees, it might be really scary. Like, oh, they're chasing him. And he just slams into a beehive.
So stupid.
6-foot tall beehive. He somehow didn't see. Ridiculous. Not the bees. Anyway, I think that's good. Done with this movie. We could finally
Yeah, me
put it to
too.
rest. And on to our next one. Thank you for listening. I would just like to remind everybody again about our new Patreon. Even though we're still pretty early on to the podcast, it'd be nice, get some Patreon followers, get to the point where, we're making millions, don't gotta work. We could just stay home and watch movies and review them all day.
Not blow our money like Nick Cage.
I know. I'm gonna buy a dinosaur. That'd be so sick. Can I buy Nick Cage and keep him in a cage?
Maybe for the right price.
I can't say no to that. Anyway, thanks for listening again, everybody. Makes me so happy that everyone's made it to episode 6. I can't even believe we made it to episode 6, but here we are.
Sorry, I keep hitting my mic.
It's the first time I heard it.
Oh.
So it's okay. All right.
Well, bye.
Yeah. Bye. Want to do our sound? Cute.